All right. Hey, sometimes the biggest breakthrough in business doesn't come from doing more. It comes from hitting a full reset on your habits, your health, your standards. That's exactly what today's conversation is about with my man, Joel Staley. Welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. Thanks for having me, John.
Awesome, awesome. Well, I love the setup, man. It's we were talking off camera. Got a cool vision of someone jumping, right, taking that risk. You got the plaques of the things and the accolades that you've been able to do, and that's not a show off. That's really a representation of how many people you've helped, go through your system and your process, and obviously your own journey. So, we love to start at the GO4CEO podcast with Joel Staley, right? Did you come from corporate? Were you entrepreneur always? What was the background? What made you think and start this business that you have? So give us a little bit of that and take it away.
Sure, yeah, I was in corporate. I did 5 years on Navy submarines and then came back home to Omaha, Nebraska. And I
Mm.
worked in a warehouse for maybe a month, and I realized that's hauling refrigerators on my back was not what I wanted to do with my life. And I got an opportunity to work in sales at a freight brokerage. And so that's what I did for a few years. But I had also always wanted to do like fitness competitions because when I was on a submarine, I had like a childhood buddy, but also a childhood rival. We were just very competitive. And I saw he was doing men's physique shows. So I was, under the ocean and just seeing like getting the snail mail of this guy's back in Omaha looking ripped and everyone's cheering for him. And I was like, man, I could do that if I wasn't on this dang submarine. So it was always a passion of mine to come home and then prove it to myself that I really could. So I came back to Omaha in about 2012 and I signed up for my first men's physique show and did really well, but I didn't win the thing. So I did it year after year until ultimately 5 years in, I did end up winning. But the reoccurring theme was I would diet down for about 12 weeks. I would cut out all my favorite foods and eat a very restrictive one-page meal plan that was very typical: egg whites, oatmeal, chicken breast, broccoli, sweet potatoes, tilapia, all that kind of bodybuilder stuff. And then as soon as my show was over, I would totally binge out on all the burritos, nachos, cinnamon rolls, everything that I had cut out for the previous 3 months. And I would gain all that body fat back in a matter of like a week and a half that took me 12 weeks to lose. And so it just kept happening over and over and over again until ultimately on year number 5, I decided that I was going to take a different approach because my buddy had a bachelor party in Arizona 2 weeks before my show. And I wasn't going to miss this bachelor party. Like all the who's who were going to be there. And it was going to be a legendary time. And I also didn't want to be that guy that was eating chicken and rice out of a Tupperware when everyone else was eating pizza and drinking beers and having the time of their life. So I had just started dabbling with fasting a little bit more. So I
Mm.
said to myself, all right, I'm going to just go to this bachelor party. And when I come back, I'm going to do some aggressive fasting. And then hopefully I'm lean enough for the show. If not, then I'll just go embarrass myself. But I went, had an awesome time in Arizona with my friends. You'd never know that I was like 2 weeks out from some sort of bodybuilding show. We were just, drinking, eating pizza, eating donuts, living our best life. And then I came back. I started doing some longer fasts, so like a 48-hour fast, a 72-hour fast. And I was very surprised because I thought I was going to lose all my muscle. I'd been told I needed protein every couple hours or I was going to waste away. I was told my metabolism was going to crash and I'd go into starvation mode. But it was very odd. My energy went up. I didn't lose any muscle. I dropped body fat like crazy. And because
Hmm.
I was fasting so aggressively, I didn't have to be so meticulous with like the white fish and like the boring food. I was still able to eat the foods I actually liked. What was crazy about that whole thing, John, was that ended up being the competition that I won, not only my class, but I won the entire show. And then I also never had that. weight rebound that I had had after being, so restrictive with my diet for so long. And that was the most annoying part, is because I would get in like single digit body fat shape, and you'd see pictures of me on Facebook looking like tan and ripped, from this show. And then 2 weeks later, I'd be invited to a buddy's pool party, and I wouldn't want to go because I had gained back a bunch of belly fat. I just,
Mm.
in my head, I was thinking people would be like, man, I thought I just saw this guy on Facebook and he was ripped, and now he's got like this beer belly, this like pudge around his midsection. And it ended up being like fasting, like some longer, strategic, longer fasts mixed with some intermittent fasting was the thing that helped me get lean and stay lean without having that blowback. And over the last about 10 years, I've been helping similar people, guys with a business or a demanding career with a wife and kids at home who can't necessarily commit to cutting out all their favorite foods or meticulously counting calories and macros and weighing everything. Just work in a strategic fasting regimen and some workouts so they can lose the body fat. Like you said in the intro, optimize their energy, their confidence, and their focus during the workday. And just put them in a really good position to either scale their business, or if they're a commission only sales rep type deal, increase their revenue.
I love what you're talking about because ultimately, there's 5 F's that I work around. And it's been something that when I wrote my book, I, developed, but also stole from others, right? For me, it's faith, family, fitness, finance, and fun. And fitness is such a key aspect to being efficient, to being effective, to be able to take action. It's always interesting when you see someone that maybe they have some issues, with their body, their health, and it complicates their weight gains and those type of things. But what you saw is a pattern. And in life, we all find patterns if we're open-minded to it and we're seeking it, and you found it for yourself. So really cool that you put that pattern to work now and understand, what you've been able to do. So what was the transition then? You were obviously came out from the Navy. Thank you for your service, and started building this other area of your life where you're in the physique world and stuff like that. Was the business then coaching in that at that point? What was kind of the transition of where you started to build a business out of what you were experiencing?
Yeah, so in December of 2016, I started my LLC, and that was essentially the idea was just to do some fitness coaching on the side, write meal plans for people, update workouts for people, hold people accountable, check in on them, answer their questions when they had them. And I didn't really know what I was doing at all, as I'm sure a lot of us can attest to when we just start something new. And I had maybe like 10 or 15 clients paying me like $100 a month. I wasn't making any money. And then me and my wife ended up having our first daughter, Kennedy, and it was her first day of daycare. Right after I dropped her off, I was driving back to my corporate gig, and it just sort of hit me that I don't have any side time for this side hustle anymore, because it used to be I could just get off work and then, I was like a bachelor essentially. I mean, I had a wife, but I still had all the free time in the world. Now we have this newborn at home, so as soon as I'm done with work, it's pick up Kennedy and resume changing diapers and feeding and rocking. And I had almost this like borderline anxiety attack. It wasn't like totally, I didn't think I was having a heart attack or anything like that, but it was just this overwhelming sense of how am I ever gonna get any of this stuff done now? And so I made a deal with myself. It was Wednesday, and I called into work for the rest of the week. I said I need Wednesday, Thursday, Friday off just to sort some things out because we just had a kid. And my thing was, I wanted to see, A, did I even like working from home? Because if I quit my job, I was going to be working from home. I wanted to find out, could I get any clients if I, my back against the wall, if I gave myself these 3 days plus the weekend, could I find a client or not? And if both those things worked out the way I wanted to, my plan was I was going to quit on Monday. So I called in Wednesday, worked. The next day, was Thursday, happened to be Valentine's Day, February 14th of 2020. And I acted like I was going to work and I just ended up going to the gym until my wife left. I didn't tell my wife any of this because obviously, pretty much, John, I've been leaving clues for the last year that I really wanted to leave my corporate job, but because I made six figures and we had a mortgage and now a kid in daycare, she was not super receptive to the whole idea, especially because I wasn't making any money at it. So I left for the gym, got a workout in, waited for my wife to leave, came home and started working. And then right away in the morning, I got a call from the owner of the company I worked for. Super cool guy, but he was like, "Hey, where are you this week?" I was like, "Oh, I got it cleared with, this person. I'm just taking the rest of the week off, tie up some loose ends, before I come back Monday." He's like, "All right, well, when you come in Monday, come stop in my office. I want to talk to you about something." And so in my head, I'm thinking, all right, man, I'm gonna walk into the office to get fired on Monday, and that just totally messes up my whole plan of quitting my job to pursue my passion, this big dream that I built up in my head. And so I was like, yeah, you know what, Matt? Now that I've got you, man, I've been meaning to talk to you. I think it's time to either, kind of crap or get off the pot with this whole fitness coaching thing. So I think, man, I got to put my 2 weeks in. And Matt was like, "Oh no, man, don't do that. What I was going to talk to you about Monday is we just put in this gym in the corporate office, and like half the people that work here are paying you to coach them anyway. So like, why don't you just be like the company's personal trainer, and you can
Hmm.
work out of our gym and just train everyone, and I'll just pay you the same salary." And I thanked him. I was like, "Man, that's really nice, but at the end of the day, it's the same type of prison, like mental prison I feel like I'm in, where I'm tied to this one location and I have to go get cleared to do anything I want. And like, it's very nice of you, and I'll always be grateful for that gesture, but I think I gotta like go out and build my own thing." And so, yeah, I was like, "Man, why'd you have to call today on Valentine's Day?" And he's like, "Oh, just don't tell Amy till tomorrow." Then he goes and tells everyone at the office. So my wife ended up figuring out on Valentine's Day anyway, just not through me, that I quit my corporate job on a whim to pursue this. But she eventually got over it. And then what was funny is the timing just ended up being perfect because it was right when COVID, it was like a month before COVID ended up happening. Everyone was stuck at home. Their gyms were closed down. They were, getting fat because they were stuck at home and just going to the kitchen every 10 minutes and then also getting pumped with stimulus checks. So then all of a sudden my business kind of skyrocketed. Um,
Mhm.
yeah, and the rest is kind of history.
Wow. What an incredible like moment in time, right? You take a decision that you've been kind of boiling through and just thinking about, man, you're not comfortable. You're feeling like, hey, having some success, but it's not really the edge, the place that I need to be. And you gave yourself a 5 day countdown. And then your boss of bosses, right? The president, the owner of the company calls you. And what an intriguing scenario, right? I mean, many people would have jumped at, okay, wait, hold on a second. Did you just say I don't have to do my current job, but I could stay at the company, make the same exact money, and do what I love, just for one company? It's an interesting dynamic that happened, and kudos to you. I mean, obviously, there could have been maybe some dynamics of how to work that out and negotiate some freedom out of it, but you still had that conviction. You had that strength behind you to say, hey, no matter what, I'm going to make it. So, what was that next 60, 90, 120 days? You said, and it's an interesting time, right? COVID hits, we're all in shutdown. Had you already planned out some social media stuff? Had you been recording and already had maybe some content? Because obviously you had some clients that you were kind of dabbling with almost on a freelance scenario. But how did you then concentrate, lock in, and start to use the timing of COVID and everything to build more business for yourself?
Yeah, so at first you would think, I mean, just logically, someone in that scenario would be crapping their pants or extremely nervous. But honestly, I felt this. overwhelming sense of relief because I thought, man,
Mm.
I did the hard part. Like I burned the boats. Now we just gotta figure it out. So it's very counterintuitive, but I felt this freedom. I wasn't really thinking about where's all this money that I need going to come from. I was like, ah, that'll work itself out. I knocked over that first big domino. Everything else will work out. So I was just like sending people messages on Instagram. Yeah, I was posting like a little bit of content. It wasn't like as easy or as cool as it is now on Instagram. It was very, not many people were posting, so you could get away with anything. I posted on YouTube and stuff. But the big thing was about 3 weeks after quitting that job, uh, I got on the phone with a business coach that specifically worked with online fitness coaches.
Mm.
And I didn't know it was a sales call at the time. I was very green in the industry, but he's like, hey, man, I was on your website. I saw some things that you could tighten up if you want to jump on a call. Jumped on a call with him, took me through his whole sales process, just closed me like it was his job, which it was. So ended up paying him $5,800 of like the $7,000 I had signed up, and that was just another kind of reinforcement of, hey, we're going all in, we're burning the boats. I think this guy can help me. If not, it'll be an expensive lesson. But it was one of the best things I could have done at the time because I figured out like how to price my offer, how to really dial in the niche that I wanted to serve, how I wanted to, a marketing strategy, sales process, kind of all that stuff. And it ended up being a really, really good investment, kind of showing me the ropes of everything. But after that, it was just a series of, I went around my circle of influence. I had a Facebook group at the time called Dads Who Lift. So I went through like the members in there and just
Mm.
started making offers. And then I started running paid ads, which is ultimately how I got those awards behind me here.
Neat, neat. So, one thing that I do want to come up, and this is my commercial hat. I'm a commercial banker by trade, and it's interesting. You start this business really kind of on this impulse, right? That you had. You gave yourself a deadline of 5 days. It gets accelerated based on that call on Valentine's Day and your boss. So, from a framework of, hey, you still have because a lot of people are worried, right? They're losing a six figure, it could be under six figure, it could be a multi six figure job. They're trying to figure out, all right, well, how do I replace that income? And a lot of times, side hustles become the hustle. But in your case, you burn the bridges. So, was there already some foundational things that maybe you haven't shared just yet, but did you have a certain amount of savings? Did you just say, hey, I've got enough capacity in my credit cards? Did you have a home equity line of credit? I'm always interested in kind of where's the initial capital coming from? Did you have some investors, family, friends around type of thing? What were some of the things that brought you to a point where, that paycheck stopped immediately? How do you convert that into paying for your bills and stuff initially?
Yeah, no investors. I knew nothing about raising capital. To be honest, I still don't really. It's something I've, heard of, and I haven't really gone down too far down the rabbit hole on it. But essentially, it was an eat what you kill model with a
Mhm.
very lean startup, which is why I had to start with the circle of influences. I don't have to pay Facebook or LinkedIn or YouTube any money to get my ads in front of people. I could just send them a message and they hopefully know who I am and that I'm getting people results. So I got my first handful of clients through that. And then once I started working with them, getting referrals from them, and ultimately, once I got into paid ads, which was fairly quickly, and keep in mind that it's a little bit different now, but this was during a time when running Facebook ads was kind of newer, and you could easily spend $100 a day on Meta and get $300 back. So it
Mm.
was at the time, I thought, man, I have business figured out. Business is really easy. I give Facebook $100. They give me maybe like five sales calls. I end up working with two of those people, and then I get like a 4x ROI or whatever it is. Like simple. Uh, and then as you, of course, progress through the years, things change and you learn things. And there was a lot of things I was doing that, like, I probably had a money mindset issue where once I did start making really good money, I was hiring like coaches and essentially finding ways to burn money just so maybe I didn't keep it. It's a weird mindset thing. But
Mm.
I was paying like three people to do a one person's job that honestly I probably could have just done. I just felt like if I'm charging this for coaching, well, then I should have this and that and the other, which was my own mindset issue. But no, I didn't have to take on any capital. Which was very nice. And I also didn't have a savings. I didn't have to do a HELOC, anything like that. It was pretty much just build this thing lean and mean and figure it out as we go.
So, you know, in that scenario, right, just to go a little bit deeper, you had already had some traction, right, with some side hustle coaching that you were doing. So when you started doing the, intentional going out to reach to your network, was there a certain amount that you kind of put on, or were you kind of guesstimating, hey, if I say 5,000 and they buy it, great. If not, yeah, I'll bring it down a little bit to 2,500 or to 1,000. What was some of the money models that you were using, or was it consistently the same? Did you find out that people were saying yes so fast that you increased the price, right? That type of thing. So,
Well, it's one of those classic people will if you charge 97 bucks a month, people are like super trepidatious and they are kind of a headache and they're hard to sign up. And all of a sudden you're like, oh yeah, I charge 3K. Then that type of buyer is like, okay, yeah, let's do it.
hmm.
So I didn't know that at the time. So I went from doing like $97 a month, which if you think about it, it makes sense because I didn't know what I was doing really. I mean, to have enough clients to be able to feed my family, I would have had to have hundreds of clients. And then no one gets the time and attention or the custom approach that they need. So it is that classic you get what you pay for. But what was nice is as I joined this coach and I got to be around other fitness coaches and I saw some of them were charging 997 for like 3 months. Some were charging up to like 4,800 for 4 months. And I got to review like their sales calls and ultimately just see it's kind of like the Bannister 4 minute mile of seeing like, oh man, there's people charging 5 grand for fitness coaching and I'm charging $100. Once you see it's possible, you're like, man, I'm like a physique competitor. My clients get way above average results. Um, why can't I charge that amount of money? And so I went to like 997, which was 10xing essentially what I was charging, pretty much like 3 or 4xing. And then I went to like 1200 and then I really doubled down on sales and I went from 1200 to 2400 overnight. And
Mm.
my next two calls closed at 2400. So I was like, "Oh man, I've just been undervaluing myself this entire time." And so it's my price point's still around there. I'd like to think I could charge more, but honestly, I think I think around 3K for 12 weeks and losing 25 to 50 pounds of fat and getting into a really good routine, I think that's a fair price. That's what I like to do.
Nice.
Yeah.
And is there a lifetime component to your program, meaning they stay on your program for maybe a lower amount? Initially, it's your one-on-one coaching, but then they stay on a system, or is it, have you repeated and rinsed kind of the whole 12 week model?
So my entire goal is for someone to know exactly what they should be doing tailored to their own lifestyle within 90 days. So that first 90 days is like a really big momentum builder and kind of like we get everything figured out. However, like me, for example, I have a wife and three little girls. It's not necessarily the best environment for me to thrive on healthy competition, that's just my personality type. So for the guys that want to continue on with like the community, the group calls, the updated workouts, the accountability check-ins, all those things, we just do like $100 a month, cancel anytime. And that way, I mean, they know what to do, but just being in that environment and having someone checking in on them, making sure they're doing what they're supposed to do, it's kind of nice because guys will stick around for years. It's not like they're breaking the bank, hopefully, but it's also not stressing them out financially. It should be a no-brainer as long as you know we're getting you good results.
Yeah, look, I mean, I'm a part of a gym called Lifetime Fitness, and over the years, I've seen it grow from, let's say, $80 to 120, 260. Now they're coming out with a new gym close to me here in Naperville, Illinois, and it's going to be 399 for one person, right? And obviously, as you have a family, and I've got three daughters myself, you pay a certain amount, but it's interesting. You get what you pay for. First of all, always in life, it is something of a lesson that Go4CEO community, you have to understand, it is a pay to play world. To work with Joel Staley and the likes of him, you have to pay to be able to be in that ecosystem and to be a part of that winning mindset and understanding how to change the paradigm that you've been living in so that you could change your fitness and the health habits. And, we started the podcast with a mindset of Go4CEO, right, with business owners and things like that. So what was the ideal avatar for you? I saw your website. You have men, women, all shapes and sizes, colors and creeds and all that type of stuff. So, but was there a certain type or avatar that you started to dial in over the next year or two of developing this business that now you kind of target? There's a gentleman I know that does, I don't know him personally, but I see him in a dark room. He's kind of a stacked dude, says, if you make 150,000 and you're a male and you hate how you look, that type of thing. Is that, did you develop an avatar after a while?
Yeah, so initially it was dad's because I was in that thick of it. Again, we just had our newborn, and I realized, just like most people probably do with their gym schedule, like I had with my side hustle, oh man, that like after work gym session is gone. Me being able to eat just whatever I want for dinner now that I have a family is out the window. Because you can only eat separate meals from your family for so long before a certain sense of resentment builds up. Understandably, your wife works hard on dinner, and everyone's eating spaghetti, and you're like, oh, I'm gonna have chicken breast tonight. It's like, well, screw you, buddy. Like I worked hard on the spaghetti. It's not good enough for you. So there's just a lot of unique obstacles for fathers, which I was starting to understand. And especially my fasting approach worked very well because, like, instead of having a demanding day at the office and coming home and having to not only eat like six perfectly prepped meals a day out of a Tupperware, but track it and log it. These are things that make sense if you're going to be on stage in a few months, but it's really not a sustainable solution for anyone that's looking to lose body fat and like sustain the results. So ultimately, I figured fathers, especially like business owners who understand the value in investing in yourself, and that, like you were just saying, you get what you pay for, and then like commission only sales reps, pretty much people that were in that eat what they kill mentality that understand, all right, if I don't take care of myself, then my energy's lacking. The way I feel about myself and my clothes, my confidence is lacking, my focus is lacking. I'm just kind of going through the motions. Whereas when I'm dialed in, my family life is better, my business gets better, I feel better about myself, I have more energy at the end of the day to pour into my family. Those are my people. So typically guys in their 40s and 50s that run businesses or have some sort of commission based sales role that have a family that understand the importance of a good plan, accountability, and a like-minded community to hold you to a certain standard.
I love it, man. It's such a cool thing, right? When you start to develop a business and you find that target market, right? And you find the people that resonate with the messaging and the service or product that you are sharing. So initially, it's been, and I don't know for sure, but has it continued to be, this regimented, right, program and process that you put together, or has it evolved into maybe an ecosystem? Obviously you see the plaques, so you had a great marketing process to it. But is there a tool that you're using? Is there a system that you put them into a said community like you said, maybe for $100 a month. But what's the process of someone coming into the ecosystem of Joel Staley Fitness and being a part of what you're doing?
Sure, yeah. So the community aspect is just the school app. I really like it
Oh,
because
okay.
it's got a leaderboard. You can tag we have our clients post their workouts up, which is just a check-in, meaning if like let's say you were doing our program and we had you on 3 gym days a week, it's nice because I can go to your profile and see if you've been to the gym 2 or 3 times. If you go dark on me, that's kind of my tripwire to reach out and see what's going on. So it's just very high accountability. That's what I like about school. But because this is a coaching program and not just like a cookie cutter, one size fits all, solution for everybody with very unique situations. We start off with an onboarding call, figure out what your challenges have been, get you set on an initial plan of attack, and then it's just an ongoing refinement from there. But being that I work with a very specific avatar and we've worked with over 2,000 clients at this point, typically have a pretty good indication of where to start things off at, and then we've got 12 weeks to really hammer it down.
And Joel, obviously starting a business and going from an entrepreneur, which is the mindset that you had working for that gentleman in his company and being a six-figure guy already, going to your own business, now every hat is on you, the marketing, the operations, the sales, the financing, the paying your receivables, right? Or paying your payables and your receivables, those types of things. So at what point, or have you scaled to a point where now maybe you have VAs? What's the infrastructure that you formed around your business model?
I've had VAs in the past. Yeah, that's a tricky one because things just are always evolving. At one point, I had a team of VAs. I had multiple sales guys taking calls. I had multiple coaches for all the clients, a mindset coach that comes in and does a weekly training. And I did get to the point that I was more like on the back burner where I would do like one group coaching call a week, but the coaches, the sales guys, the VAs, they kind of took care of everything else. And ultimately, a couple of years ago, I went back to more of a leaner model for multiple reasons. Number one, I was making a bunch of money. I don't know where any of this money is, by the way, because it all just went back into the team. So I could sit back and just look at numbers, which isn't what I'm passionate about. I got into coaching because I like working with guys shoulder to shoulder and helping them level up. So a couple of years ago, we leaned out quite a bit. So I take the sales calls, I do all the coaching, and that's been really not only fulfilling for me, but going back and talking to past clients. Not all of them, but a few of them voiced that they felt like they got the bait and switch where they were going to be working with Joel Staley, the guy they're seeing on the Facebook ads, and then they're working with like one of my coaches. So
Mm.
it's been really nice to not only fulfilling for me to get back in the coaching saddle, and is it obviously go for CEO, it's more profitable, but also I feel like the clients feel like they're getting more taken care of because they're working with the guy that made the promise, not one of my lackeys, for lack of better words.
No, and that's understood. I mean, obviously, that's one of the hardest transition in business, right? I have a guy that did the blinds for my house, and it's called West Suburban Blinds, right? And he is the man. Like, I call him up, I text him, something happens to one of my blinds, he comes out to the house, whatever, goes in for service, all that stuff. But it's been a challenge for him to grow the business from a scalability standpoint because I think one of the traps that sometimes can be a trap, it can also be a fulfillment, like you just said, the passion that you have of being in the business, not necessarily always working on the business. You could actually form it from the top back down, right? So you could have people that work on the business and you're still the focal point. It does take away a little bit of the sellability of your business, right? Because it's owner focused. But ultimately, if the fulfillment's there, what a cool thing. And my blinds guy, he's struggled more with like the way he services, the way he is passionate about blinds of house. It's hard for him to translate that to other people. And, he gets worried that he may not have someone that operates at even 75% of what he does. So it's an interesting concept. So has there been any struggles with that, even though you went from in the business to on the business to then back in the business? Has there been any struggles within that pathway that you feel have constrained, or have you been pretty satisfied with where you're at?
Oh, a million struggles. That's what I was saying earlier. Back in 2020, I thought I had business figured out, and then it's just like one lesson after another that was just, I interpret it as the universe's way of, I feel like everything's a gift in retrospect, at least. It doesn't always seem like that in the present time, but something really bad will happen, and then it ends up being a very valuable lesson that you don't do that again or you go about it a different way. So right now, I mean, I've been trying to redial in my marketing for probably 3 years now. And it is just, again, Facebook, it used to be a lot less crowded in the space for one. I think coaching, because it is such a low barrier to entry, that a lot of people have gotten a bad taste in their mouth because they've worked with essentially me from 2016, who's charging $97 a month because I don't really know what I'm doing that great. But people know they can charge 3 to 5 grand now, so they're still getting a really crappy service, even though they paid some high school kid like 5 grand. And so like, oh yeah, I tried coaching, it was really dumb. Um, so really getting crystal clear on my marketing. I still run Facebook meta ads, and they're profitable, just not like they were. I've done like YouTube ads, LinkedIn ads. I've tried just about anything and everything as far as marketing goes, and I mean that for the last 3 years. And everything works just enough to keep doing it, but I haven't found that grand slam like I used to have, so I'm gonna keep looking for it. But it's just constantly a learning process. But honestly, I mean, that's what I like about it. When I got into business, I didn't even know what the term marketing meant. You could have asked me, I didn't know if there was a difference between sales and marketing. And this is like when I quit my job to do this thing. So, what is nice about going through any sort of challenges as you run your business is I am a very naturally curious type of person. I like to learn new stuff. Um, and I probably wouldn't learn new stuff unless the universe forced my hand. But yeah, I kind of like it. Every day is a little bit different. When you do get a win, it feels freaking awesome. When you're going through it, you know that the win's ultimately coming as long as you don't give up. So I don't know. I'm far from having everything figured out, but I've made some incredible relationships. I've had some lifelong memories with a lot of these clients. So that's another thing. We have the option to meet up twice a year, take things offline. We'll go to like Las Vegas or Nashville or Colorado or Austin, Miami, and we just rent an Airbnb and have like a little guys' weekend and just take things off Zoom and make some memories in person. And there's no amount of money I would trade those memories for.
It's interesting. Recently, over the last 3, 4 months, I met a private equity guy that's been doing a pretty massive roll up, and that company that he has on the roll up side is doing about 500 million a year. And he's decided, and he picked out certain people that he knew. I happened to be in kind of the sphere of people that he knew. He picked us out, and he said, "Hey, let's get together." Almost like a networking group, but not official, right? No real labels to it. And one of the aspects is that a recent trip, I didn't get a chance to go to this one, but they went to Puerto Rico because that group of people that are pretty successful have access to things, right? So the people that you've put together, right, and especially business owners, people that you've changed their lives, may have a house in Cabo, may have a membership at Pebble Beach or whatever. And it's interesting. He kind of helped me think, oh, wow, this is another way that a peer group or networking group, whatever you want to call it, can then spend some real time offline, building real relationships and doing experiences that helps us. So it sounds like you've also transformed within your business model some ways that people experience you and stay on with you, right? Because then they're like, so I'm assuming the first 12-week price model has kind of, refined and refined and you've got it dialed in. But then the lifetime value of that client, is it on the monthly or is it on these trips or how does that work for you?
Mostly the monthly. So I do have another group called the Winner Circle, and that's really just for like the like the cream of the crop of guys that go through the initial 90-day program, and they're just cut from a different cloth. So that is kind of my personal accountability because I have to compete with these guys month after month, year after year, and some of these guys have been with me for 3 or 4 years now. So that's still only a couple $100 a month, but just doing hard things with a group full of other guys with businesses and kids and every reason in the world just to be drinking beer on the couch and watching Netflix, but still, they want to get up and get after it because they know that it just makes them feel better about themselves. When you can meet up with like a big group of like 15 of those guys and like let's say Miami and you got a pool in the backyard and you're going out to nice restaurants eating steaks and just like talking business, talking about family, talking about goals, talking about standards. I think that is the missing component for most men that have families and don't have that sense of camaraderie that they used to have back when they played collegiate sports or were in the military, because that tends to be the reoccurring theme. The guys I talked to, they were in the best shape of their life when they were on a sports team or in the military or were otherwise surrounded by other high performing guys. And then they get married, they start having kids, they're surrounded by average at best employees or coworkers, and then slowly but surely their own standards kind of slip because we are the sum of our environment. And just intentionally surrounding yourself with other guys that are at least going for it. If not there, they're at least going for it. I think that is the secret to success that a lot of guys tend to ignore.
I've got an inner smile right now because that's the intention of Go4CEO, right? We're working on some boardroom things, some peer group stuff that we're launching over the next few months, and it's interesting. I love it, and again, this PE guy kind of opened my eyes to like, oh wow, okay, you can put a group of guys together that do a special trip, and man, that becomes that lifetime because I'm a D1 soccer player myself, and I think athletes and military have this special understanding of that work ethic, the mindset, the things that you have to do to really become successful. And like you said, it could be sometimes almost a slow deterioration because the environment that you put yourself in. But if you plug yourself back in, that's why a lot of these guys and groups and tools are working because people understand that actually there is a real effect to the way that is coming back. So, all right, look, you've talked about the business that you said, hey, gave yourself 5 days, you launched it, you tried and tribulations and things are growing. At Go4CEO, we like to know about operations, scaling, modeling, all these types of things. So at this point, over the next 18 months, if you could forecast some things, where are you seeing Joel Staley Fitness and some of the brands that you've been able to build go?
Great question. So, twofold. On the individual level, I am reevaluating my marketing agency. Essentially, my lead cost is too high, and I just don't have the opportunities that I would need to have to get where I want to go. So, as soon as I have a meeting with someone on Friday who he gets his clients pretty good results. He only works with fitness coaches, whereas the people I'm working with right now, they don't really have a niche. So that in and of itself kind of makes me wonder. Like, I don't know if have the same Facebook campaign as a chiropractor or as a roofer, right? Like, it's different.
Mhm.
So I'm hoping to work with maybe potentially someone that can get my lead cost down, my opportunity up, and then just scale from there. From there, I would bring on probably setters and closers before I outsourced any of the coaching, again, because I like the coaching. And man, I'm really shooting myself in the foot. I've had some big deals come through the program over the last few years that I did not have the chance to build that relationship with. I mean, we had the Attorney General of Nebraska go through my program a few
Mm.
years ago, and I just thought he was some attorney. And it's like, man, I had the opportunity to like really get to know this guy on a personal level. And you can imagine, like you said, you work with some guys that run big deal companies, and I'm just treating them like any, you know, other client. Where, yeah, so I feel like that was a missed opportunity on my end. But to answer your question, I've really only been passionate about two things outside of like my family and health and stuff like that. And that's fitness and sales. In 2026, my goal is to start working with some smaller sales teams, like 10 to 50 reps, and put them through a similar program as this one with the intention of if sales is a transfer of energy, like most of us believe it is, it's just common sense that your sales team is not going to perform to the level they could be if they're hungover, if their sleep quality isn't dialed in, if they're driving through Dunkin' Donuts on the way to the office. Um, so by looking at their performance habits outside of the office, just like an athlete, I have just seen way too many times for it to be a coincidence. When you dial all those things in, you just end up crushing it throughout the workday because you have more energy, you feel good, you look confident. You can go walk into a business and not feel like everyone's judging you because you feel like you're the freaking man. And so that is my goal is to instead of the one-on-one, which isn't going anywhere because that is kind of like my bread and butter, what I've always done. My goal here in the very short time period is to start working more with like teams and getting that same community aspect, but being able to have that metric of here's what our revenue and what our KPIs looked like before we were optimized, and now here's what we're doing. Because I think
Mhm.
once people have that data and it's very tangible, they could just look at, then dialing this stuff outside of the office is going to be a no-brainer for them.
So I'm curious, we can dive a little bit deeper here. Will it be an on-premise program or will it be online or some sort of one-to-many situation? What's your thoughts?
Yeah, so it is a 90-day program and it's three different segments. The first segment is like personal standards, like at home life. So like personal performance. The second 30 days is professional performance, and then the third 30 days is the like culture and leadership aspect, taking ownership that these are my new standards and I'm not going to slip even if I don't necessarily have a coach here holding me accountable. So the one-to-ones will be online, but even if a company's out of state or across the country or what have you, each 30-day segment starts off with like a 90-minute keynote, just so people understand why the stuff that we're about to do over the next 30 days is important. So it's a little bit of a mixture. It's like one-to-many coaching and then having that personal one-to-one touch. If someone's across the country, we can do all that via Zoom.
Nate, Nate. No, I'm excited. I mean, I've got so we'll talk offline. We've got some things that are in very similar alignment. And part of the book is you have to assess where you're at, ladies and gentlemen. Go for So community. If you read my book, that first chapter is really about assessing, right? Faith, family, fitness, finance, and fun. These are five areas of your life that, like Joel, has really affected the fitness side, but he's also really mentally also looking at how he affected and tweaked his family life, right? Having three daughters is no easy task, as I know myself. And creating that assessment opportunity, takes a step back. And then, aligning yourself with the right people, aligning yourself with the Joel Staleys of the world, to be in his ecosystem, to be a part of his community, to be a part of that program that allows you to go in a 90-day steps and have 30-day intentional ways of doing things. That lends itself to accountability. And the last one is taking action, right? So awesome, awesome stuff. So, Joe, we like to end our interviews with CEO, right? Client experience, engagement, and operational excellence. And I'll review the other two. But for client experience, if you think about the brand, Joel Staley Fitness and your other brands, what should someone expect from a value proposition? If you break it down in 60 seconds, what is the client experience that you're expecting people to come through?
Being recruited onto the winning team. I mean, that's really what it is. Again, why we work so well with like ex-athletes, military sales guys is because they are naturally competitive. And I think a quick, like a slow death is not having that competition. And when you're not competing, it's just very natural for your own standards to slip because you're not measuring your efforts or your results against anybody. So when you're in a small, tight-knit community of other guys that run businesses or have sales careers, they have families, and you're not only being able to compete on who's waking up early and who's not, who's getting the gym in and who's not, who's fasting, who's not, who's eating good, who's not, but also You're seeing guys take their wife out on date nights. You're seeing
Mhm.
their, dads taking their daughters out on daddy-daughter date nights. And when it's just that close to you, it's very apparent of, oh man, I haven't taken my daughters out on a daddy-daughter date night in months. Like that's an area I'm slipping in. I would not be privy to if I wasn't in this environment. So just a reevaluation of standards and being on a team that it's that dichotomy of we're competitive, everyone wants to be the best, but we all know a rising tide lifts all ships too. So we want to like win together, and we do that by competing against each other.
I love it. I love it. Well, great breakdown, right, of what that client experience could potentially be for someone watching this and being a part of your programs. Now, the second one is E for engagement, and this is very personal, right? You mentioned you really enjoy these getaways with your clients, but how does your family, your clients, your vendors, the people you deal with, how should they look at when they deal with Joel Staley, right? The engaging side. Are you a trips guy only? Do you like events? Are you a breaking bread, or do you break it up? I just had my last guest say that with his family, he likes doing certain things engagement. With his people on the business world, he likes doing different things. What's it like for you in the engagement side?
Well, that's what I really like your five F's, especially the last one. I think a lot of people forget about fun. And it's one thing to go to an event and everyone's journaling and writing how we can get better and this, that, and the other thing. I think the type of guy I work with, very type A, we already do that naturally anyway. We're naturally hard on ourselves and we always want to be better and we're never where we want to be because we're always looking at that next level. Uh, so I really like the fun aspect. If we're gonna hang out on a boys trip in Vegas or Miami or Austin or wherever it ends up being, I don't I do want you to come back a better man for it, but I also want to make some memories that are like, man, I almost forgot what it was like to have a guys' weekend with just the boys and not have to watch Bluey or, Love is Blind or, whatever you're stuck watching in your everyday life. Like to go out there and eat a steak and drink some whiskey with all your buddies that you're just crushing goals with.
I
So
love it.
I hope if I'm in someone's life that I'm making them like be more fun and have some experiences they otherwise wouldn't have.
Oh yeah, that's awesome. I think it's so fun and relatable, right? Especially when you have a specific avatar. It's so when you get into community and you get into talking, you're like experiencing the same thing, and it's really reminds you that you're never alone, right? You're never alone in this journey. It could be different ethnicities, backgrounds, places that we're at. But man, a dad of three girls, a dad of one girl, a dad of this, a dad of that, like a dad of a career. It's similar things that we're going through, and it's a really cool thing to know that you can kind of have this engaging scenario. And thanks for sharing kind of how people would engage with you. So, last one is operational excellence, right? From a business standpoint, what tools are you using? Are you also incorporating AI, which is obviously the hot topic the last, year or two? Is there Monday.com? Like, how do you stay organized? What are some of the ways that you run your business from an operational standpoint?
Operationally, I just try to have systems in place where, like time blocking, I do the same things at the same time a lot of the time, like check in with clients at certain times. Yeah, I definitely use AI for, like, I wrote a book about a year and a half ago called The Total Reset. And it
Mm.
goes over a lot of these principles. And I won't say AI wrote the whole thing, but I noticed that my paragraphs were a lot less articulate than after I ran it through AI. And I'm like, hey, that's what I was trying to say. You just said it better.
Yeah.
So yeah, some content I'll use AI on, but not overly because I don't want to sound robotic. And honestly, I think that I honestly kind of have AI fatigue when I see someone is obviously running all of their content through ChatGPT. It's like, okay, dude, that doesn't even sound like you. But I try to just keep things simple. It's very easy to get overly complex when it comes to operations, and I think like especially you want to stay ahead of the curve, so you want to feel like you're doing the most. When I found that can often, it's kind of like what I was saying about the diet, where someone that is eating six perfectly portioned meals a day constantly. They feel like they're doing the most when honestly there can be a much simpler way that's going to be less of a headache, meaning you're going to have a better chance of actually executing on it consistently. So the other thing is just delegating, like media buying, and there's just certain things I can't stay on top of the latest marketing trends. It's constantly changing week after week. So knowing like where's my area I'm good at and what should I delegate, those are pretty, as far as operations go, those are the big things. Keep it simple and delegate the things that I am better off delegating.
I love it. I love it. Well, I love that you've identified that specific avatar. I love that you've gone through the journey, right? Burned the bridges, taken some chances in life, right? Which keep life spicy in a way. And God bless you, man. After that first kid and that motivation and seeing the drop off and opportunity that you had there, you've had two more kids, which is awesome. And in my opinion, on my faith side of things, I always talk about I think good people should have multiple kids. I think many of us, unfortunately, the culture has, deteriorated the family aspect, and we're trying to rebuild it. Right, the military, the coaches, the people in sports, the backgrounds. We're all coming together again and having two, three, four, five kids, and I think that'll be something that transforms over the next 20, 30, 40, 50 years to see the effect of good people having the multiple kids in that scenario. I did start late. I started my late 30s into my 40s, but it's been a great journey. So tell people how to get a hold of you, Joel. What's the best way to interact with your ecosystem, jump onto one of your programs, or just, reach out to you?
Sure, you can go to totalresetcoaching.com. It's the best way to learn a little bit about what I do and who I work with. Like I said, I do all my own calls, so you and I can jump on a call, see if it's a fit for both of us. If you're just looking to connect, get into the ecosystem, but you're not really looking to sign up for any sort of coaching, Instagram's probably the best place. Just Joel Staley Fitness.
All right, awesome, awesome. Well, hey, Golf Show community, and if you're just watching the show here, but you've gotten a ton of nuggets, right? Really valuable information, become a subscriber, be a part of the community. Also, pick up the book, The 4A Formula, Untangle Any Challenge, and Think Like a CEO. It's attributes of competencies and things that I talk about, the 5Fs: faith, family, fitness, finance, and fun, how we put a formula together so that you can framework that over your life in any one of those areas. And then great takes from guys like Joel Staley on our bonus chapters talking about how they think like a CEO. So thanks so much, Joel, for coming on the Go for CEO channel, and we look forward to having you in the future as well.
Thanks for having me, John.
Awesome, brother.